Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Once again, today it's time to break down some news regarding Madden 20. We are now under 3 months from the game actually coming out, and we have a little more information after their live stream yesterday, along with a new blog they posted. I'll have linked down below. But this information pretty much all pertains to the superstar abilities and the X Factor abilities, with a few little pieces of gameplay information that they shared. There's more to come on gameplay here in a couple weeks in one of their upcoming streams. Next week's is Ultimate Team. I'm probably not going to break down that one just because I don't play much. But definitely I wanted to see more about these Superstar and X Factor abilities, which I was really concerned about when they first announced it back around the draft. But I do think that it has the potential to be a cool addition. And one of their core pillars, as they say in the article, is that they want to make NFL stars feel like stars. And this is a way to do it without necessarily having to affect ratings. These superstar and zone abilities are going to be things that differentiate the stars from everybody else and make them more desirable to have and obviously more impactful. The other core focuses they mentioned in the article are that they wanted to build unique playbooks and new NFL strategy, and I'm looking forward to that because the playbooks have felt pretty old for a while, and outside of adding like shot plays and a few formations like the double A gap defense, they haven't done a very good job of keeping up with where the NFL is headed. They also want to create more immersive moments and deliver a polished experience. I'd say at least from Madden 19, there is a whole lot of polish that Madden needed overall, and I want to see what they could have possibly done in a year. But getting into the Superstar X Factors, there are about 50, they say, of the NFL's most elite athletes that'll be X Factors. These players are basically given new abilities when they enter what they call the zone, and when they're in there, they can have a greater impact on the game, and they have some different abilities that only unlock when they're in the zone. So there are superstar abilities, which are abilities that are always available, they're always active, and then there are the zone ones, which are earned. They had an example of Patrick Mahomes' bazooka ability, which will have something to do with completing passes over like 30 or 40 yards, and then when he enters the zone, his max pass distance increases by 15 yards. So it sounds very action RPG-like. I know I mentioned that in a prior news video. Like, the bazooka ability to me doesn't really sound like one I like. In general right now, my thoughts are that I like the idea of the superstar abilities, but I don't necessarily like the idea of the zone abilities, because I just think that if you had like a clutch mechanic in the game, which there was the clutch trait, we'll see if the trait system is still in here. It sounds like that's something that could be scrapped and replaced with this system. I think that's going to happen, but I have no idea. But it just seems like players having abilities that are only available sometimes doesn't really make sense. Especially something that's like a physical ability, like how far you can throw a football. But I don't think the material impact of something like this is going to be too major. I don't think you'll be in the zone a ton. It doesn't seem like it'll be some like NFL blitz style game. And I'm just hoping that this stuff is balanced and it doesn't feel like we're playing some different kind of arcadey football game. But ultimately, not many players are going to have the zone abilities, and then obviously different zone abilities will be there for different players and positions. So it's something I'm interested to see how it plays out. Some of them might work, we'll see. But the superstar abilities, I do feel that can work, and we've seen All Pro Football 2K8, if you've played that game. That's how they kind of made players stand out. A very similar system. One thing to keep in mind is that these zone abilities and superstar abilities aren't just rating impacts. In the article they mentioned these are behaviors, characteristics, and situational outcomes, aspects of football, and it will be very clear to our players what impact they are having on the game by complementing the player ratings, not modifying them. So they have a full loadout here listed for a few players. Patrick Mahomes is up first, and his zone ability when he enters the zone is the bazooka. And there's counters to all of these, which is important to have in a system like this. But basically, he can get into the zone by completing a to be determined number of passes over 30 yards. And when he's in the zone, that increases his maximum pass distance to, I believe, 80, 85 yards. I think they mentioned in the stream, like 80 yards, and the furthest he's ever thrown a football is supposed to be 83. So it should be within the realm of possibilities for Mahomes. But you can knock him out with an interception or a sack, and then he's no longer in the zone and has to re-earn that, I guess. Overall, I don't see this ability as being too useful because there's a small chunk of the field to really utilize it. Although, remember, the end zone is 10 yards, so if you're at like the 30-yard line, your own 30, you could conceivably hit a pass to the end zone easily with Mahomes with this ability, which would help in Hail Mary situations and whatnot. But beyond his zone ability, Mahomes does have 4 superstar abilities that are always active. The first one is No Look Deadeye, which gives him perfect passing accuracy on cross-body throws. Now, I wonder if they really mean perfect, because I don't like a lot of things in my sports games to have either 0 or 100% outcomes. Obviously, they mention these are not supposed to be rating impacts. So it kind of does seem like these abilities will give you more fixed outcomes, and these abilities are things you can rely upon. So, while I like the idea of the superstar abilities, we'll see if them actually being put into action is something I like. But Mahomes also has the Escape Artist, which gives him elite speed and agility when scrambling on pass plays. Dashing Deadeye, perfect passing accuracy when throwing on the run, and Red Zone Deadeye, perfect passing accuracy when throwing inside the red zone. If the goal is to make Mahomes stand out with these abilities, I think this would definitely accomplish it, but I just hope that there's still like a chance of him missing throws in these situations. I wonder if they'll look at the different game styles, arcade, competitive, simulation, and maybe tune things differently, because I know as a simulation player, I don't like 100% chances of anything, or zeros. You know, I think that 99 catching players drop a pass every now and then. I'm fine with it, even if they're wide open. It's going to happen. It shouldn't happen a lot, but the chance needs to be there, in my opinion. So, they talked about having 50 X-Factor players in the game, and those are the superstars who also have a zone ability, but there are also just superstars, and I wonder how many there will be. I could see a lot of players, you know, the majority of players potentially being superstars in a way. Maybe they have one ability if there's something they're really good at, or 2 or 3. That's a cool way of differentiating things, I think. So one example is Julian Edelman, whose superstar ability is Slot-O-Matic, which means he excels at route running and contested catches when running routes from a slot receiver position. And they mentioned in the live stream that he wouldn't be able to take advantage of this if he was lined up outside. It has to be with him in the slot. And I think they mentioned that his cuts on those shorter routes would actually be quicker. So it would have a faster animation conceivably, better route running win chance, and then obviously his contested catching ability when single covered. So there's an example. Some other superstar abilities include Pass Lead Elite, extended precision passing on all throws except for high and low throw. Pocket Deadeye, perfect passing accuracy when passing with the quarterback's feet set from inside the pocket. Matchup Nightmare, gets open and wins contested catches when covered by a single linebacker or defensive lineman. And Edge Rush Elite, frequently uses dominant pass rush moves when rushing from a defensive edge position. One thing they do talk about is that all abilities can be countered by either a user skill mechanic or another ability. So with Edelman and his Slot-O-Matic ability that allows him to hang on to catches in traffic, if the defender covering him has either the zoned out or man up catch knockout ability, then the outcome will be decided by a 50-50 flip, knowing that both players are elite, so there's kind of an equal chance there. They also mentioned that the Superstar X-Factor players will be changing throughout the year, so with different roster updates, you'll no longer just be looking for rating changes, it would appear. And both Franchise and Ultimate Team benefit from the addition of these abilities, creating another layer of strategy. In Franchise, we're going to see the abilities tied to players' development traits. In order to have the access to ability loadouts, players need the development trait to unlock them. So for star and normal development players, there are no abilities. For superstar players, they can get superstar abilities. So that kind of answers what I was saying before about how many players will have these abilities. It is going to be exclusive even for just the superstar abilities, and the players who have superstar X Factor are the only ones who can have both zone and superstar abilities together. So it is very exclusive. Most players are still just going to be handled with ratings and not these abilities. One issue I foresee here is that they mentioned players will not be dropping in development at the end of a season. If they're not dropping at all, but they're still regressing, then you're going to end up with some older players whose ratings have tanked, but they're still going to have these abilities. And that might make things a little strange. So I wonder if there is regression in place for these abilities as far as players aging and maybe no longer having access to them. We don't have any info on that yet, but we do know that top performers at the end of seasons can increase their development trait to unlock abilities. So you're obviously going to want to develop those young players and get as many players that can have abilities as possible. As far as Ultimate Team goes, it says that chemistry abilities are being replaced by superstar abilities, but I haven't played MUT in a while, so I don't really know all of what's going on there. So we'll move on to superstar animations. They showed off some of these in the stream. It was pretty cool. There are going to be some signature animations for a few quarterbacks. Doesn't seem like many, but Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees are included. The animations aren't actually recorded by the quarterbacks themselves. They seem to have a few actors there that can mimic some of these motions, and I thought some of the Aaron Rodgers ones were pretty good. So Rodgers will have some signature animations in there, including the fastest release in the game. That'll be pretty cool if you can kind of notice the difference between players' releases and their animations, which will make you have to learn your quarterback a bit more to get used to them, because obviously the ball comes out way faster from Aaron Rodgers compared to someone like Blake Bortles. They do mention the timing from the start to the end of the passing animation for all quarterbacks will scale down from the fastest passers based on the real-world performance. They also worked on passing speeds and trajectory, and this gets into more of the gameplay stuff I was kind of excited to talk about, but I'm looking forward to new trajectories this year and the tuning of the pass speeds for all throw types. And in order to get the higher pass trajectory, they had to drop velocity a little bit. So this will hopefully help with getting over linebackers there in the middle of the field. So the 99 throw power rating is now going to equate to a throw speed of 55 miles per hour, which would be down from 62 miles per hour in Madden 19. So a 12% difference there. And also notice that throw power is what's tied to throw speed at the same time. And I'm hoping that for players who only have like 82 throw power, that there's a noticeable difference. Like, as a Viking fan, watching the team go from Christian Ponder to Teddy Bridgewater, I noticed right away, like, the ball from Bridgewater just goes so much faster. There's a lot more velocity. But then with quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, the ball is about as fast as it can travel. Lamar Jackson as well. And that's important, I think, to highlight, because that can separate who can make certain throws in certain circumstances, because some guys just don't have the velocity and arm strength to fit certain windows. We learned before that there is a new pump fake mechanic in the game, and when you double tap a receiver icon, that's how you're going to use it. And you're going to see well-timed pump fakes impact defenders, forcing them to react, especially when equipped with a sleight of hand pump fake superstar ability on players like Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. As a result, the medium pass mechanic has been returned to the press and release mechanic, which was there prior to Madden 16. If you're not familiar with that, if you were looking for a touch pass, essentially, it was double tap for the last few years, but prior it was holding the button not quite for a bullet pass, but also not just tapping it for a lob. Somewhere in between there. It's a button press. It's hard to kind of describe, but you'll know it when you see it. But yeah, pump fakes have not been really useful. One game that took it to the extreme was Backbreaker. They're very overpowered in there. So I'm hoping that they tie this to be really a timing mechanic, because certain routes, a pump fake can work really well, like a double move. But then I think really deep about stuff like this, and it's like, well, this would be a lot more useful against defenders in zone coverage, because they have their eyes on the quarterback. If a player is, in man-to-man coverage and he bites on a pump fake, someone's going to get angry. I think the most useful use of the pump fake mechanic would be if there are zone linebackers in the middle and you can kind of hold them with a pump fake so someone can get behind them. So there's kind of a dream scenario where this works out, and we'll see how close to it Madden 20 is able to get. Next up, signature animations and special moves. They have updated first down and sack celebrations. That's always nice. For running backs, you'll notice that superstar players have their own set of special moves that only superstars have access to, including juke, spin, hurdle, truck, and stiff arm, and even branching broken tackles out of the special moves. And they've scratched the surface with signature running styles on a few players like Cam Newton, Julian Edelman, Alvin Kamara, and Richard Sherman, and they want to do more with this. Superstar pass rushers also have powerful and unique pass rush animations that will have a heavy impact on offensive game planning due to the quarterback pressure these animations deliver. On the presentation side, they have some special pre-game and in-game signature cutscenes for superstar athletes. I wish that they would just save stuff like this for like when they can actually show it off, because it's not really useful just to hear about stuff like that. But for the immersion and quality polish section, there are some things here that are interesting, and they've been working on reducing the number of immersion breakers. So hopefully we can see less weird stuff that we saw in Madden 19, and really, since the Frostbite engine was included, Madden has, definitely not been polished. There have been more bugs, I think, than ever, and more issues that need fixing. But it says here in the article they did something to work on that, and instead of waiting until they hit alpha to polish the game, they started doing polish after every 3 weeks of production. So hopefully this is a cleaner game of Madden from a stability and bug standpoint than we've seen these last couple years. And obviously the Frostbite engine hasn't always worked nicely with these different game genres, so hopefully we're getting past kind of the rocky patch with the Frostbite engine, with more features and tools and things being made for these games. Doesn't seem like Frostbite was ready for this, but in theory, with time, it should be better. They also took a look at ways to reduce downtime where the player is watching instead of playing. So they have streamlined some pre-play, post-play, and no-huddle experiences. When using Hurry Up No Huddle, the accelerated clock will tick off the amount of time it would take for the player the furthest away to run and get aligned in his pre-play formation position. I don't think this needed to happen. I understand wanting to waste less time, but I don't consider the no huddle wait to really be downtime. There you can think about what play you want to run, you can look at the defense, see how they're aligned, and it doesn't take that long to get from one play to the next. The clock is running. To me, that's not downtime, although in certain cases it does take a little while to get lined up. I just don't think that had to be streamlined. But as far as pre-play and post-play, yeah, in some cases that could be cleaned up, but to me it wasn't really a big deal. I think it would create more immersion if they did a better job pre-play of focusing on certain players with more focused cameras and being able to watch players get to the line in a more interesting fashion. I think that would have been cooler. Here's maybe my favorite bit of information, and I really hope that they did this right. The pass rush has been impacted in Madden 20, and we're going to see a more powerful pass rush in this game globally to limit the amount of time in the pocket. It's going to be even more intense when playing against superstar pass rushers, and there is a significant creative change to the balance of the game, and on average it will force the offense to get the ball out quicker on passing plays without consistently having the time to wait for the second and third passing windows to open up. That is exactly what I want. Pass rush needs to be one of the most important things in the game. When you watch a real football team, the teams that have elite defensive lines that can rush the passer and the teams that have the worst offensive lines, watching their games is very different than watching anybody else's. If you watch the Vikings back in 2016 when Sam Bradford was starting and they basically had to scrap the idea of throwing the ball past 5 yards. I'm not saying that should be the norm, but it needs to be possible if you have a replacement level offensive line. It's rare for quarterbacks to get clean enough pockets to throw it way downfield and complete all these passes. There was nobody in the NFL last year who had more than 8 catches of 40 yards or more. Not a single one. In an era with more passing than ever, especially more wide open passing than ever, in a league where we're seeing smaller, faster receivers have more success, there were only 19 players last year who would have averaged a 20-yard catch per game. So imagine some of the most dominant deep threats in the game, guys like Brandon Cooks, T.Y. Hilton. They're good for, 1 or 2 a game, but they each only had 22 catches at 20 yards or more. And that's, of course, including catch and runs, screens, you name it. All catches of 20 yards or more. They're not as common as you might think. And I think the biggest reason why there aren't more is because of pass rush. You don't want your quarterback getting hit. You don't want to lose yardage. You want to make sure the ball gets out quick and you're able to get those yards in a more efficient manner. And deep passing in general is just not an efficient way of playing. I found the passing stats, by the way. Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger were the leaders last year in 40-yard passes. They each had 16. So once a game, you could count on them hitting a 40-plus yard throw. For 20-plus, the leader was Patrick Mahomes with 75. With the increased pressure and everything, they have worked on redoing kind of how that affects quarterbacks. And you're going to have abilities and ratings now that affect these players. So there's a lot to balance with this. You're going to see great pass rushers have a greater impact on quarterback passing accuracy when applying pressure. And you'll see quarterbacks who are great at throwing under pressure be more accurate. There are going to be gang sacks in the game. So now multiple defenders can sack the quarterback. Rushed get-up animations. When players get knocked to the ground while the play is still alive, they will now get up with a little more urgency. Limits placed on lurking linebackers. So in addition to the new throw trajectories, they've also made some changes with jumping over the middle. And primarily only defensive backs will be able to execute the athletic jumping interceptions. So if you try to do these user picks with the big defenders, they will trigger some catch animations but not reach the ball. But they have picked out some of the best ball-in-air linebackers and equipped them with the superstar ability to allow them to make these spectacular catches. I wonder if this will cause players to think about putting safeties at linebacker more often then. If it's easier to lurk with them and they can make the better interceptions, then perhaps guys like Jamal Adams will be the one you want to lurk with in the middle. They've worked on some animation polishing with the improved transitions into and out of interactions for blocking, catching, and tackling, and some more quality tweaks. They've removed auto strafe entirely from the game, both the functionality and the setting. So now strafing is going to be a manual thing. And they've removed different game speeds from the game, and that might impact some of you that prefer the game on the fastest setting or a slower setting. But they did this mainly due to the amount of very specific bugs it caused for the animation systems. And now ball hawk is defaulted to on for all skill levels. You can still toggle it off. And that covers all the information here from the article and the Twitch stream. Overall, I still think this superstar ability system could be cool, but again, I don't like a bunch of fixed outcomes and guarantees in sports games. I think that one of the biggest reasons why sports are so popular is because there are very few guarantees and anything can happen. But that's coming from me, and I have a very simulation-focused mindset. I don't care about what's more fun. I really only want authentic stuff. And I can see the superstar system as being a creative solution to bringing more authenticity to the game. So we'll just have to see. Overall, I think it'll help make the star players really stand out. The main worry I have, and obviously they haven't talked about this, but just like the AI, with all these new systems, the more they change different ways about how the game is played and the systems they add on, the more it requires of the AI to be able to use these features. And the AI has lacked for a long time in a lot of areas. You know, the ball carrier AI has been weak, the quarterback AI, and then you get into things like drafting logic, trade logic. I just wonder if they've done enough with the AI in general on the gameplay front to make the user versus computer experience that I want a good one. It's not something that can go overlooked, especially with the state it was in Madden 19. That's all I have for today. Looks like in a couple weeks they'll have another stream that I'll be interested in, more gameplay stuff. But let me know what you thought down below in the comments section. What are your thoughts on the superstar and zone abilities? I'm still thinking that it could work, partially based on like seeing how All-Pro football handled it. And I think there's a lot of balancing and testing that goes into making features like this. And we've seen with patches now for a while, we see the game kind of change dramatically after a while, and patches will mess with slider sets and stuff like that. So this is absolutely going to be a game where when I'm playing, automatic updates are going to be off. I need to be in control of the updates this time around, because I had the game at a couple points last year in spots I really enjoyed it, but then certain patches just rendered it not fixable, at least for my ability to handle sliders. But that's going to do it for today, everybody. Leave your thoughts down below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel for more Madden 20 news and eventually some content. I'm hoping to get back to franchise this year on the main channel. I get asked about that a lot. It's still a goal, but I can't guarantee it after Madden 19. So have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you all again soon. Kalispell practice tomorrow. Gonna be fun.